morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm back with part 2 for Friday, October 14th, 2022. If you like what this channel does for you on a regular basis, consider subscribing. If you do, hit the notification bell so you know when the next video pops up. In addition, share the word of God so that others that need to hear it can hear it and apply their lives accordingly. Well, in Yahweh's name, amen. Now, we're going to pick up where we left off on, which was Leviticus 24. Leviticus 24. One second, please. Leviticus 24. The Lord said to Moses, command the Israelites to bring pure pressed olive oil to you for the lamp, to keep a light burning constantly. Aaron will tend the lamp, which will be inside the meeting tent, but outside the inner curtain of the covenant document, from evening until morning before the Lord. This is a permanent rule. Throughout your future generations, Aaron must continually tend the lights of the pure lampstand before the Lord. You will take choice flour and bake 12 loaves of flat bread, 2/10 of an ephah, which is 4 quarts dry. By the way, for each loaf, you must place them in 2 stacks, 6 in a stack on a pure table before the Lord. Put pure frankincense on each stack as a token portion for the bread. It is a food gift from the Lord. Aaron will always set it out before the Lord, Sabbath after Sabbath, on behalf of the Israelites as a permanent covenant. It will belong to Aaron and his sons. They must eat it in a holy place, because it is the most holy part of their share of the Lord's food gifts, a permanent portion. The son of an Israelite mother and an Egyptian father came out among the Israelites. A fight broke out between this half-Israelite and another Israelite man in the camp. Then which the half-Israelite blasphemed the Lord's name and cursed. So he was brought to Moses. His mother's name was Shelomith, Debri's daughter from the tribe of Dan. He was put in a guard until they could determine the Lord's verdict. Then the Lord said to Moses, take the one who cursed outside the camp. All who heard him will press their hands on his head. Then the whole community will stone him. Tell the Israelites, anyone who curses God will be liable to punishment, and anyone who blasphemes the Lord's name must be executed. The whole community will stone that person, immigrant and citizen alike. Whenever someone blasphemes the Lord's name, that person will be executed. If anyone kills another person, they must be executed. Someone who kills an animal may make amends for a life for life. If someone injures a fellow citizen, they will suffer the same injury they inflicted, broken bone for broken bone, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. The same injury the person inflicted on the other will be inflicted on them. Someone who kills an animal must make amends for it, but whoever kills a human being must be executed. There is one law on this matter for you, the immigrant or citizen alike, because I am the Lord your God. Moses told this to the Israelites, so they took the one who had cursed outside the camp and stoned him. The Israelites did just as the Lord commanded Moses. Leviticus 24. Let's continue on to, let's go to Numbers 30. Numbers 30. Moses spoke to the leaders of the tribe of Israel, of the Israelites. This is what the Lord has commanded. When a man makes a solemn promise to the Lord or swears a solemn pledge of a binding obligation for himself, he cannot break his word. He must do everything he said. When a woman makes a solemn promise to the Lord or a binding obligation while she is young in her father's household, and her father hears her solemn promise on her binding obligation for herself and keeps silent, then all her solemn promises and any of her binding obligations for herself will stand. But if her father expresses disapproval to her on the day that he hears her, none of her solemn promises nor any of her binding obligations for herself will stand. But if her father expresses disapproval to her on the day that he hears her, none of her solemn promises nor any of her binding obligations for herself will stand. The Lord will forgive her because her father expressed disapproval to her. If she marries while her solemn promise is in effect or makes a statement by which she binds herself and her husband hears it, on the day he hears it, keeps silent, her solemn promises will stand as well as her binding obligations for herself. But if on that day her husband hears it, he expresses disapproval to her, he can break her solemn promise, a statement by which she bound herself. Then the Lord will forgive her. Every solemn promise of a widow or a divorced woman who makes a binding obligation for herself will stand. And a woman makes a solemn promise in her husband's household, makes a binding obligation for herself with a solemn pledge, and her husband hears and keeps silent and doesn't express disapproval to her, then all her solemn promises will stand, and all her binding obligations for herself will stand. If her husband breaks them on the day he hears them, then whatever she said with no regard to her solemn promises or the binding obligations for herself will not stand. Her husband will have broken them. The Lord will forgive her. Her husband may not allow any solemn promise or any binding pledge of self-denial to stand or be broken. But her husband keeps silent from one day to the next. But if her husband keeps silent from one day to the next, he has upheld all her solemn promises, all her binding obligations. He had upheld them because he had remained silent on the day he heard them. If he breaks them after he had heard them, he will assume her guilt. These are the regulations that the Lord commanded Moses concerning a husband and his wife, and between a father and his daughter while she is young and in her father's household. That's Numbers 3. Let's go to Deuteronomy 19. Deuteronomy 19. Once the Lord your God has eliminated, once the Lord your God has eliminated those nations whose land the Lord your God has given you, and you displaced them, settled into their cities and in their houses, you must designate 3 cities for your use. In the land the Lord your God has given you to possess, roll out the roads to them, and divide the regions of the land the Lord your God is apportioning to you into 3 parts. These cities are the places to which a person who has killed can escape. Here's the rule concerning a person who killed someone. It's permitted to escape to one of these cities and live. If it's someone who's killed his neighbor accidentally, without having hated that person previously, or if someone goes into the forest with a neighbor to chop some wood, and while swinging an axe to cut down the tree, the axe head flies off its handle and its neighbor, who subsequently dies. These kinds of killers may escape to one of these cities and live. Otherwise, the blood avenger will chase after the killer out of rage, especially if the distance to one of these cities is too far. Might catch and kill him, even though a death sentence was not in order, because the killer didn't have prior violence towards the other. This is why I command you as follows. Designate 3 cities for your use. Now if the Lord your God enlarges your territory, as he swore to your ancestors, and he gives you all the land he swore to give them, as long as you keep all this commandment that I'm giving you right now, by doing it, by loving the Lord your God, and by always walking in his ways. You can add 3 more cities for your use, along with the first 3. Innocent blood must not be spilled in the land the Lord your God has given to you as an inheritance, or it will be bloodshed that will be required of you. If someone does hate a neighbor and ambushes him, rising up against him and attacking him so he dies, and then escapes to one of these cities, elders from the killer's whole time will send word, and the killer will be sent back from there. They will hand him over to the blood avenger, and he will be executed. Show no mercy to such killers, removing innocent bloodshed from Israel, so that things will go well for you. Now in the land that the Lord your God is giving you, in your allotted property that you will receive there, you must not tamper with your neighbor's property line, which has been previously established. A solitary witness against someone in any crime, wrongdoing, or any sort of misdeed that might be done is not sufficient. The decision must stand by 2 or 3 witnesses. Now, if a spiteful witness comes forward against someone so as to testify against them falsely, the 2 persons who have a legal suit must stand before the Lord, before priests, and before the judges that are in office at that time. The judges will look at the situation very carefully. If it turns out that the witness is a liar, that the witness has given false testimony against his fellow Israelites, then you must do to him what you have planned to do to his fellow Israelite. Remove such evil from your community. The rest of the people will hear about this and be afraid. They won't do that sort of evil thing among you again. Show no mercy on this point, life for a life, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, hand for a hand, foot for a foot. It's Deuteronomy 19. Let's go to Deuteronomy 23. Deuteronomy 23. No No man whose testicles are crushed or whose penis is cut off can belong to the Lord's assembly. No one born of an illegitimate marriage can belong to the Lord's assembly either. Not even the 10th generation of such children can belong to the Lord's assembly. Ammonites and Moabites can't belong to the Lord's assembly. Not even the 10th generation of such people can belong to the Lord's assembly as a rule, because they didn't help you with food or water on your journey out of Egypt, and because they hired Balaam, Beor's son, from Pethor of Mesopotamia to curse you. But the Lord your God wasn't interested in listening to Balaam. The Lord your God turned that curse into a blessing because the Lord your God loves you. So don't be concerned with their health or well-being as long as you live. Don't detest Edomites because they are your relatives. Don't detest Egyptians because you were immigrants in their land. Children born to them are permitted to belong to the Lord's assembly, starting with the 3rd generation. When you camped in battle against your enemies, guard yourself from every possible evil. If an individual in the camp becomes polluted due to a nighttime mission, he must exit the camp area and not re-enter. When the next evening arrives, he must wash with water, and when the sun sets, he can come back to the camp. The latrines must be outside the camp. You will use them there outside the camp. Carry a shovel with the rest of your gear. Once you have relieved yourself, use it to dig a hole. Then refill it, covering your excrement. Do these things because the Lord your God travels with you. No. Do these things because the Lord your God travels with you right in the middle of your camp, ready to save you and to hand your enemies over to you. For this reason, your camp must be holy. The Lord must not see you do anything indecent among you, or he will turn away from you. Don't return slaves to their owners if they escaped and come to you. They can stay with you in your own community or in any place they select from one of your cities, whatever seems good to them. Don't oppress them. No Israelite daughter is allowed to be a consecrated worker. Neither is any Israelite son allowed to be a consecrated worker. Don't bring a female prostitute fee or a male prostitute's payment to the Lord your God's temple to pay solemn promise, because both of these things are detestable to the Lord your God. Don't judge fellow Israelites' interests, whether on money, provisions, or anything one may loan. You can charge foreigners interest, but not your fellow Israelites. Do this so that the Lord your God blesses you in all your work on the land you are entering to possess. Whether you make a promise to the Lord your God, don't put off making good on it, because the Lord your God will certainly be expecting from you the land that will make you guilty. Now, if you simply don't make any promises, you won't be guilty of anything. But whatever you say, you should be sure to make good on exactly according to the promise you freely made to the Lord your God, because you will promise it with your own mouth. If you go into your neighbor's vineyard, you can eat as many grapes as you like until full. Don't carry any away in a basket. If you go into your neighbor's grain field, you can pluck ears by hand, but you aren't allowed to cut off any of your neighbor's grain with a sickle. Deuteronomy 23. Let's go to Deuteronomy 24, next page. The same man marries a woman, but she isn't pleasing to him because he discovered something inappropriate about her. So he writes up divorce papers, hands them to her, and sends her out of his house. She leaves his house and ends up marrying someone else. But this new husband also dislikes her, writes up divorce papers, hands them to her, and sends her out of his house. Or suppose the second husband dies. In this case, the first husband who originally divorced this woman is not allowed to take her back and marry her again after she's been polluted in this way, because the Lord detests that. Don't pollute the land the Lord your God has given to you as an inheritance. A newly married man doesn't have to march in battle. Neither should any related duties be placed on him. He's to live free of such responsibilities for 1 year so he can bring joy to his new wife. Millstones, or even just the upper millstone must not be pawned, because that would be pawning someone's livelihood. If someone is caught kidnapping their fellow Israelites, intending to enslave the Israelite or sell them, that can never must die. Remove such evil from your community. Be on guard. It's outbreaks of skin disease by being careful about what you do. You must carefully do everything the Levitical priests teach you, just as I commanded them. Remember, after all, what the Lord your God did to Miriam on your departure from Egypt. When you make any type of loan to your neighbor, don't enter their house to receive the collateral. You must wait outside. The person to whom you are lending will bring the collateral to you out there. However, if the person is poor, you're not allowed to sleep in the pawn coat. Instead, be sure to give the pawn coat back by sunset so they can sleep in their own coat. It will bless you and be considered righteous before the Lord your God. Don't take advantage of poor, needy workers, whether they are fellow Israelites or immigrants who live in your land or your cities. Pay them their salary the same day before the sun sets, because they are poor and their very life depends on that pay, so that they cry out against you, so they don't cry out against you to the Lord. That will make you guilty. Parents shouldn't be executed because of what their children have done. Neither should children be executed because of what their parents have done. Each person should be executed for their own guilty acts. Don't obstruct the legal rights of an immigrant or orphan. Don't take a widow's coat as a pledge for a loan. Remember how you were a slave in Egypt, but how the Lord your God saved you from that. That's why I'm commanding you to do this thing. Wherever you're reaping the harvest of your field, and you leave some grain in the field, don't go back and get it. Leave it. Let it go to the immigrants, the orphans, and the widows, so that the Lord your God blesses you in all that you do. Similarly, when you beat the olives off your olive trees, don't go back over them twice. Let the leftovers go to the immigrants, the orphans, and the widows. Again, when you pick the grapes of your vineyard, don't pick them over twice. Let the leftovers go to the immigrants, the orphans, and the widows. Remember how you were a slave in Egypt. That's why I'm commanding you to do this thing. Deuteronomy 24. Let's go to Deuteronomy 32. Deuteronomy 32. Heaven, pay attention, and I will speak. Earth, listen to the words of my mouth. My teaching will fall like raindrops. My speech will settle like dew, like gentle rains on grass, like spring showers on all that is green, because I proclaim the Lord's name. Give praise to our God. The rock, his acts are perfection. No doubt about it, all his ways are right. He is the faithful God, never deceiving. Altogether righteous and true is he. My children who were in his own sin against him with their defects. There are twists in a perverse generation. Is this how you thank the Lord, you stupid, senseless people? Isn't he your father, your creator? Then he make you and establish you. Remember the days long past. Consider the years long gone. Ask your father, he'll tell you about it. Ask your elders, they will give you the details. When God Most High divided up the nations, when he divided up humankind, he decided the people's boundaries based on the number of gods. Surely the Lord's property was his people. Jacob was his part of the inheritance. God found Israel in a wild land, in a howling desert wasteland. He protected and cared for him watch over him with his very own eye, like a eagle protecting its nest, hovering over its young. God spread out his wings, took hold of Israel, carried him on his back. The Lord alone led Israel. No foreign God assisted. God made Israel glide over the highlands. He fed him with food from the field, nursed him with honey from a belder, with oil from a hard rock, courage from the herd, milk from the flock, along with the best of lambs, rams from Bashan, he-goats too, along with the finest wheat, and for drinks wine from the juiciest grapes. Jacob ate until he was stuffed. Jeshurun got fat, then rebellious. It was you who got fat, thick, stubborn. Jeshurun gave up on the God who made him, thought that the rock of his salvation was worthless. They made God jealous with strange gods, aggravated him with detestable things. They sacrificed to demons, not to God, to deities of which they had no knowledge, new gods only recently on the scene, ones about which your ancestors have never heard. You deserted the rock that sired you. You forgot the God who gave birth to you. The Lord saw this and rejected out of aggravation his sons and his daughters. He said to them, I will hide my face from them. I will see what becomes of them, because they are a confused generation. They are children lacking loyalty. They provoked me with no gods, aggravated me with their pieces of junk. So I'm going to provoke them with no people, aggravate them with a nation of fools. The fire burns in me, will blaze to the depths of the grave. It will destroy the land and its crops. It will blacken the base of the mountains. I'll throw on them disaster after disaster. I'll destroy them with my arrows, devastating hunger and consuming plague, bitter sickness. Ascending will fangs after them, venom from death crawlers too. Outside in the streets, the sword will bereave. Inside in the safest room, there will be terror from young men and women. Nurse a baby and senior citizen. I thought about it. I could have struck them down, erased them from human memory, but their enemies' rage concerned me. Their opponents might misunderstand. They might say, "Of strong hands, not the Lord did all this," because they are not a thoughtful nation. They lack any insight. If they had any wisdom, they would understand this. They would discern what will become of them. How can one person chase over 1,000 in battle? How could two people make 10,000 flee for their lives? Only because the rock sold them off. Only because the Lord handed them over. But no, their rocks can't compare to a rock. Their enemies are completely stupid. Their roots run straight from Sodom, from the fields of Gomorrah. The grapes are pure poison. The grape clusters nothing but bitter. The wine is snake poison, venom from a cool cobra. Don't I have this stored up, sealed in my vaults? Revenge is my domain, so always punishment and kind. At the exact moment their step slips up, because of the day of their destruction is just around the corner. The final destiny speeding on its way, but the Lord will acquit his people, will have compassion on those who serve him. Once he sees that their strength is all gone, then both prisoners and free people are wiped out. The Lord will ask, where are their gods, the rocks they trusted in, who ate up the fat of their sacrifices, who drank their sacred wine? They should stand up and help you. They should protect you now. Now look here. I myself, I'm the one. There are no other gods with me. I'm the one who deals death and gives life. I'm the one who wounded, but now we're healed. There's no escaping my hand. And now I'm lift up my hand to heaven. I swear by my own eternity, when I sharpen my blazing sword and my hand grabs hold of justice, I'll pay my enemies back. I'll punish and God everyone who hates me. I'll make my enemies drink blood, much blood, while my sword devours flesh. The blood of the dead and captured, flowing from the heads of enemy generals. Heavens rejoice with God. All you gods bow down to the Lord, because he will avenge his children's blood. He will pay back his enemies. He will punish and con those who hate him. He will cleanse his people's land. So Moses came out and recited the words of this poem, and everyone's hearing. Joshua, Nun's son, joined him. When Moses finished speaking all these words to Israel, he told them, I set your mind on all these words. I'm testifying against you right now, because you must command your children to perform carefully all these words of this instruction. This is no trivial matter for you. This is your very life. It is by these means alone that you will prolong your life on the fertile land you are crossing the Jordan River to possess. The Lord Lord spoke to Moses that very same day. Hike up to their brim. Hike up to the brim mountains to Mount Nebo, which is in the land of Moab, opposite Jericho. Taking a look at the land of Canaan, which I'm giving to the Israelites as their property. You will die in the mountain. You have hiked up, and you'll gather your people, just like your brother Aaron, who died on Mount Hor, was gathered to his people. Thus the two of you were unfaithful towards me in front of the Israelites at the waters of Meribah Kadesh in the still wilderness, because you didn't treat me with proper respect before the Israelites. You look at the land from the other side of the river, but you won't enter there. Deuteronomy 32. Let's go to Proverbs 18. Proverbs 18. Friendly people look out for themselves. They bicker with sensible people. Fools find no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing their opinion. When the wicked arrive, so does contempt. With shame comes insult. The words of a person wise are deep waters, a bubbling stream, a fountain of wisdom. Favoring the wicked isn't good. It denies justice to the righteous. The lips of fools make accusations. Their mouths illicit beatings. The mouths of fools is their ruin. Their lips are a trap for their lives. The words of gossips are like choice snacks. They go down to the innermost parts. Those who are lazy and the work are brothers to thugs. The Lord's name is a strong tower. The righteous run to it to find refuge. The riches of the wealthy are a strong city, like a high wall in their imagination. Pride comes before disaster, but humility comes before respect. Those who answer before they listen are foolish and disgraceful. The human spirit sustains a sick person, but who can bear a broken spirit? An understanding mind gains knowledge. The ear of the wise seek knowledge. The gift opens the way for access to important people. The first person to testify seems innocent until the others come and cross-examine him. The dice settle conflicts and keeps a strong opponent apart. An offended ally is more formidable than a city. Such quarrelings like the bars of a castle. The stomach is satisfied by the fruit of the mouth. One's lips can earn a satisfying income. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Those who love it will eat its fruit. He who finds a wife finds what is good, gaining favor from the Lord. The poor plead for help, but the wealthy answer harshly. There are persons for companionship, but there are friends who are more loyal than family. Proverbs 18. To conclude, let's go to Matthew 5. Matthew chapter 5. Now when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up a mountain. He sat down, and his disciples came to him. He taught them, saying, Happy are people who are hopeless, because the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Happy are people who grieve, because they will be made glad. Happy are people who are humble, because they will inherit the earth. Happy are people who are hungry and thirsty for righteousness, because they will be fed until they are full. Happy are people who show mercy, because they will receive mercy. Happy are people who have pure hearts, because they will see God. Happy are people who make peace, because they will be called God's children. Happy are people whose lives are harassed, because they are righteous, because the kingdom of heaven is theirs. Happy are you who, when people insult you, harass you, and speak all kinds of bad, false things about you, because of me. Be full of joy, be glad, because you have a great reward in heaven. In the same way, people harass the prophets who came before you. You are the salt of the earth, but if salt loses its saltiness, how will it become salty again, and is good for nothing except to be thrown away and trampled under people's feet? You are the light of the world, a city on top of the hill, can't be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a basket. Instead, they put it on top of a lampstand, and it shines on all who are in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before people, so that you can see the good things you do and praise your Father who is in heaven. Don't even begin to think that I have come to do away with the law and the prophets. I haven't come to do away with them, but to fulfill them. I say to you seriously that as long as heaven and earth exist, neither the smallest letter nor even the smallest stroke of a pen will be erased from the law until everything there becomes a reality. Therefore, whoever ignores one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called the lowest in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever keeps these commandments and teaches people to keep them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. I say to you that unless your righteousness is greater than the righteousness of the legal experts and the Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. You have heard that it was said to those who lived long ago, don't commit murder, as we read in Exodus 20, verse 13, and all who commit murder will be in danger of judgment. I say to you that everyone who is angry with their brother or sister will be in danger of judgment. They say to their brother or sister, you idiot, they will be in danger of being condemned by the governing council. And if they say you fool, then they will be in danger of fiery hell. Therefore, if you bring your gift to the altar and then remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift at the altar and go. First, make things right with your brother or sister, then come back and offer your gift. Be sure to make friends quickly with your opponents while you are with them on the way to court. Otherwise, they will haul you before the judge. The judge will turn you over to the officer of the court and you'll be thrown into prison. I'll say to you in all seriousness that you won't get out of there until you paid the very last penny. You have heard that it was said, don't commit adultery, but I say to you that every man who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery in his heart. And if your right eye causes you to fall into sin, tear it out and throw it away. It is better that you lose a part of your body than your whole body be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to fall to sin, chop it up or throw it away. It's better that you lose a part of your body than your whole body go into hell. It was said, whoever divorces his wife must give her a divorce certificate. But I say to you that whomever divorces his wife except for sexual unfaithfulness forces her to commit adultery, and whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Again, you have heard that it was said to those who lived long ago, don't make a false solemn pledge, but you should follow through once you have pledged to the Lord. Read that in Leviticus 19, verse 12, Numbers 30, verse 2, Deuteronomy 23, verse 21. But I say to you that you must not pledge at all. You must not pledge by heaven because it is God's throne. You must not pledge by the earth because it is God's footstool. You must not pledge by Jerusalem because it is the city of the great King. And you must not pledge by you must not pledge by your head because you can't turn one hair white or black. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Anything more than this comes from the evil one. And you have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Read that in Exodus 21, verse 24, Leviticus 24, verse 20, and Deuteronomy 19, verse 21. But I say to you that you must not oppose those who want to hurt you. If people slap you on your right cheek, you must turn the left cheek as well. When they wish to call you to court and take your shirt, let them have your coat too. When they will force you to go 1 mile, go with them too. Give to those who ask and don't refuse those who wish to borrow from you. You have heard it was said, you must love your neighbor. Read that in Leviticus 19, verse 18, and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who harass you, so that you will be acting as children of your Father who is in heaven. He makes the sun rise on both the evil and the good, and sends rain on both the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love only those who love you, what reward do you have? Don't even the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet only your brothers and sisters, what more are you doing? Don't even the Gentiles do the same? Therefore, it's just as your heavenly Father is complete and showing love to everyone, so also you must be complete. Matthew chapter 5. Let's conclude today's edition of The Corner. Hopefully this word has blessed you, listener, wherever you are in the world. Whenever you get a chance to listen to this, Father God, I know that my mind and heart posture is not correct right now. Thank you for allowing me to wake up to complete the second part of the mission. Please fix me and do not depart me. Do not leave me. Have sinned and stumbled. Please give me that right heart space again, right mind space in order to best serve you and your purposes. I wish the same for the listener who may be going through their own trials and tribulations. Unbeknownst to whoever's around them, they only know what's going on in their hearts. And say this in your son's name, amen. Now, may the Most High, through His Son, continue to protect and provide for you, your loved ones, family members, and friends. May they also continue to provide good gifts for you, such that comes with no sorrow or regret, such as that with knowledge, wisdom, discernment, revelation that comes from them that doesn't equate to the worldly wisdom, compassion, mercy, grace, long suffering, forgiveness, patience, endurance, um, and grace, all those that are afforded to us so that we can afford it to the next person before we sin and others sin against us, and so on. God will, I'll be back tomorrow with another storm off the corner. Be well, stay well, be well. Be well, stay well, be blessed, stay blessed, most importantly. Be in and stay in God's will and word for your life, myself included, so that you will prosper and you will receive all that God has promised you for your life and the next life. Shalom.